This is a room where you'll absolutely get those questions answered today. We are thrilled to be able to bring you this session on airport concessions and how you all can break into the business and take advantage of the opportunities that are there. And we have a fantastic panel of experts here to talk to you about it. First, to my farthest right, we have Regina Brown, Manager of Small Business Development, San Diego County Regional Airport Authority. Please give Regina a big old hand. And right in the middle, we have Shane Robinson, President and owner of S&C Robinson Enterprises. Please give it up for Shane. And finally, closest to me, Ron Gomes, Vice President, Strategic Alliances, HMS host. And so, yes, big round. They work autonomously as well as together. And so you have the advantage of a group that really knows each other, collaborates, as well as knows the business that we're here to talk about today. We all know airport concessions, generally it's just changed, transformed this industry since 9/11 and in the last several years, TSA developments and so forth. You have a captive audience on the one hand. Too many of us, too much at the time, I'm captive in an airport, which I could do without. But it does make you shop and eat and do all those good things. It has changed pricing structure. It has also created challenges for those who want to be there as well. And it feels to me like sort of a government within our government. So beginning with Regina, can you sort of tell us the story behind what you all are doing?
Okay.
And where the openings are for more of us to take part.
Sure, thank you. Thank you all for being here today, and I'm excited to be here. The airport holds a really special place in my heart, simply because I had the opportunity to come in and see where we could help a lot of small business, a lot of minority-owned small businesses in one space. And so we have several programs at the airport. But to get into the airport, you really need to be considered a disadvantaged business enterprise owner, small business owner. Once you have that, that program was established, what is it, in 1984? By the FAA. So we get a certain amount of money from the government. Most airports do, I think all of them do. And as a result of that money that we get, we're required to use small businesses to do a lot of the work. So when I heard that, I was really excited because I'm thinking to myself, so they're gonna make us use small businesses, which is what I wanna see happen anyway. Okay, I can do this because that means I can put the hammer on the people that I work with to make sure that they're using small businesses to do as much of this work as possible. And so what happens is when there's opportunity at the airport, we put out an RFP. And one of our large prime concessionaires, which would be in this case Host, they may bid on it, on a package of a retail or food and beverage. And then Ron, from that point.
I could listen to you for hours.
Ron and I have a special relationship.
So what we do as a prime concessionaire, so HMS Host, I'll give you a little background. We're kind of the 800-pound gorilla on the food and beverage aspect of airport concessions. We do about $2.2 billion in the US. We're a $3 billion company. We have an ACDB program that I oversee. We have 115 partners, like Mr. Robinson here. I love them all dearly, but he's my favorite.
Mine too.
And we'll just roll with that. And they generate, last year they generated about $440 million in sales. So do the division on that, and it's a nice little business. So when Regina's airport will put out an RFP, we will respond to RFPs. And we go looking for partners to bid with us. And first place we're looking is each state keeps a list of all the certified partners. If you're not on that list, it's going to be a little harder for me to find you.
Yes.
Not that we won't, but it's a little harder to find you. So that's an important aspect of what we do. And then we seek partners who have a couple of years experience in a similar business. Not everybody has it exact. Some have restaurant, some have non-traditional location experience, some have retail experience. You don't want to cut your teeth at the airport, though.
Yeah.
You don't want to learn your craft at the airport. You want to come with some skills. And if you got skills and you're on that list, there's a good chance you'll be getting some phone calls when these RFPs come out, and that's the best way to get started.
And have a certification, though, right?
Yeah,
So
that's what
can
I was
you
gonna
talk,
go with.
like, tell us about the certification, because it sounds to me, and what I've read,
Yes.
like the certifications are key.
They are
how
key.
do you get the certification? What kind of certification are we talking about? How cumbersome is that process? What do you have to bring to the table?
So the certification piece, like just so that you understand, like Ron was saying, they'll respond to an RFP. Now, we at the airport, we're looking for people who are using small businesses. So if you respond to an RFP, but you don't have a small business that you're connecting yourself with, or you're going to do a joint venture partnership with, we typically will not want to use you. So they come in, and then we have to get him certified. In order to get, it is a very tedious process, but our airport handholds. We walk our small businesses through, because the idea, and that's how my program was established really, to help the small businesses through those hard trials of filling out all this paperwork and making sure they're staying in compliance. So they would apply, and you would apply for the Unified Certified Public Agency program. You apply, and you really have to just prove that that you're certifiable, and that's basically what they say.
But what does that mean?
I can
That
just
means go ahead.
If I can just add to, because since that's pretty much the onus is on the aspiring business
yeah.
owner that wants to get into that space. So essentially, wherever you live, there's an entity that oversees the program, and you would essentially you're going to have a 4 to 5 hour, excuse my language, but proctoral exam in your office or your business, and it's literally that detailed. They're going to pull. They're going to be looking at your business. The structure of your business. There is a personal net worth component that falls under the guidance that they follow as far as ACDBE certification. They're going to ask a lot of questions, and the onus is on you to demonstrate that you are who you say you are, and you are operating. And this is in your home state. So for my situation, I live in Atlanta, but I operate in 5 airports, ranging from California, New York, and in Georgia. So you have to be certified in your home state before you can consider doing business in San Diego or where else. But once you have that home certification, you have to still be certified in the city in which you choose to operate. It's just that it doesn't matter until you get certified in your home state.
I would assume it's easier, though, once you're certified in your home state,
Yes.
I assume it's easier to be certified elsewhere,
Because
right?
because the packets are transferred to where he wants to go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're not going through the entire process in each.
Well, you
are.
are. And that's why I was making that point about not all airports have a small business department that helps our small businesses navigate that process.
Okay.
Which is what we do. So you do have to get certified and go through that whole process again. However, it's a little easier this time because you already know for the most part, what the expectations are.
So what kind of businesses are we talking about? Because, you hear a lot about the kiosk, right? And you get a great kiosk, you're selling sports apparel, or you're selling, hair pieces or something, and it doesn't seem that onerous, and maybe you can just get a lease for a month. It doesn't even have to be a big commitment, and you can try it out. Is that realistic, or what is the typical entry-level story look like?
Let me grab this.
Okay.
First of all, a couple of numbers. Your net worth is capped at 1.32 million. That's an important number.
For certification.
For certification. You don't have to count your house, and you don't have to count the equity in your business. It sounds like a lot of money until you find out what it costs to build a restaurant in the airport. When you go to your banker, they'll be happy to explain that to you. Also, your business size is capped at 56.42 million. I'm really proud of remembering that number. But 56.42 million, and they measure it over the last 3 years. Most folk don't have an issue with that. It's the personal net worth. If you've had other businesses and you've had some measure of success, you might be bumping up against that. Also, they look at how many people own the business, and they look at the majority of the owners have to meet the criteria for a social disadvantage as well as an economic disadvantage. Most of us here at this conference meet that criteria, but whatever the SBA considers a social disadvantage qualifies. Sad to say, it's not just a program for us folks. There's other minorities in the country, and we do address that, and women can apply as well. So I wanted to get that out there too. As far as what's typical in the industry, yes, some people start with carts and kiosks. If you're asking me from my experience, is that a great way to start? Probably not. One of the problems we sometimes have is we sometimes aim too low. I do want people to walk before they run. I want you to have some experience, some banking relationship of some, you got to have some positive relationships, but don't aim too low. What you're better off doing is travel, go to as many airports as you can, ask questions. You can go up to any of our people at the airport. They're bored sometimes. You want to ask them questions. They're happy to talk about what they do. But learn how it works. But you got to get the feel of it. If you've never flown, it's really hard for you to come in and pitch me with something that I'm going to get excited about. But the more time you spend looking at what's going on, the better ideas you're going to come up with. And we can come up with some things that might be successful, and it could be something well beyond a cart or a kiosk.
And I really identify where you want to be, because people, we were talking about this earlier, people oftentimes will say, oh, I have an opportunity, I want to work at this airport, and it may not be a good fit for you. You got to look at the demographics, the passengers that come through that airport. The idea is for you to make money and to partner with someone that's going to help your business grow, because it is a lot of money to come into the airport and just start. So doing doing these key things in the beginning will help you be successful.
So I'm curious to know, if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking at this as a value proposition, right? Why should I be more inclined to try to put my business up in the airport? And why should I take a pause and really think about it? What do you see as the primary advantages to having a business within the airport? And what are the key challenges?
In our airport, our contracts are what?
10 years.
10-year contracts? So you have 10 years of guaranteed income.
Is that your minimal contract?
They can go longer, but they have to be approved by our board. And we are a public agency, so it is a little different.
So it's a real commitment.
It is a commitment. Yes, it's a commitment.
Right.
If these two gentlemen are committed to each other, I'm committed to working with them, but they have the partnership. And so for Shane, he's at our airport, he's with host, and he will be there. So you have income, and then the other part to it is that it opens you up. It puts you on a level playing field, if you will, because he's in our airport, but guess what? If they have an RFP that they win in another airport, they're more than likely going to call Shane because they have that good working relationship. Right. So,
What do your actual businesses look like, Shane? What are the businesses that you're
So essentially, I have managers in the airports, varying by size. No, 5 here, 2 there, and they are literally managing national brands like a Burger King, Auntie Anne's, Great American Bagel, or also situations where we have brought in, or HMS Host has their own private brands. And they manage the day-to-day operations of just like being an assistant manager or a manager in an airport. So they are all food and beverage consisting of national brands as well as private brands that they run day-to-day.
Now, your background was not this.
No,
So can you talk about your transition, how you came into this business and why?
Certainly, and I'll try to make it quick, because again, if we had talked 15 years ago, I would not have seen myself sitting here. First career, out of school, AT&T. Then I decided I wanted to get into store management, so I ran stores for Home Depot for 6 years. Then I decided to try a different color, and I ran stores for Target for another 6 years while I got my MBA. In 2012, the Atlanta had an RFP opportunity, and we were approached by another company. Do you have any interest? And the conversation, kind of one thing led to the next. And the one thing I'll just put a pin in, I cannot understate the importance of relationships. You will not be successful, you will not have an opportunity if you don't know how to work and develop relationships. So having said that, I talked with the company and they asked me a question just in passing, what do you want to do? And I said, well, if I just had a pile of money, I would go open up my own restaurant. I am a foodie, I love food and beverage and that type of thing. And to the conversation, one thing just kind of led to a next. We were assisting them with kind of the positioning in Atlanta, and we decided, they showed a pro forma, we're looking for partners, and this is potentially what an airport can deliver in terms of profitability for you. Here's the investment, here's the return, are you interested? Yes, let's talk about this. And so with that, we did not win in Atlanta, but another opportunity was surfaced. They were looking for a partner. That entity was looking for a partner at JFK. And that's kind of how my life began. S&C Robinson was created. The first question was, you need to get certified. So we went through that process and did that starting in 2012 while I was pounding the pavement at Target and running stores. And then in 2016, like I said, there is an investment in here, and the agreement was once I paid off my initial investment for JFK, I could consider doing this on my own. And so at that point in 2016, I said goodbye to Target and started doing this full time. And then met this gentleman, and 3 more airports came into my life. And the rest is kind of history from that point.
So you kind of glanced over, here's the investment, here's the return, and everybody's going, what's the investment and what's the
So,
return?
like I said, I think Ron said, airports are expensive. You're looking at anywhere from $1 million up to 8, 9, 10 million, depending on the extent and scope of the actual project. If it's a new, and the difference is if you've got new construction, if you are building something new versus are you buying into the existing value of what's there, and we've done both. Again, but like I said, make no mistake, you need to be looking at $2, $3, $4, $5 million cash somewhere.
And how did you go about raising that capital?
Well,
how did that work for
and
you?
there's a couple you could look at. There are venture capitalists, there are banks, and then there's your parents. And quite frankly, I went to my father and said, Dad, look at this. This is something I want to do. Can you assist me with getting, and we went through the banks. Fortunately, we did not give up an ounce of equity, and I'm very, very proud of that. We did not give up any of our business in order to pursue business. We were able to actually go through Citizens Trust Bank, they've been here, they're our bank, and we were able to get the financing through Citizens Trust for the initial deal. And again, I told you I was not allowed to quit my job until that debt was serviced in its entirety. And again, 4 years, quite frankly, 4 years on roughly a $3 million investment is what we took care of. If that gives you some perspective on how good it can be.
Now, I should have said this at the beginning. If you have questions, jump to the mic. You don't have to wait for us. You don't have to wait for me. Come on up and ask your question. This is an intimate enough space that, again, I want you to get what you came here for. So, yes, what's your question? Tell us your name and give us your question.
My name is Chris. This question, I think, is mainly for you, Shane. 2 questions, actually. First question, I've heard a lot about concession stands and things like that, but is there also a market for service providers, maybe installing networking cables and things like that in
Yes,
airports?
there is.
Okay.
So.
Yes.
Second question is, what are the typical margins on a $3 million contract?
I would say, if I were to look across my entire business, roughly speaking, the margins are around, I would say, on average, about 18, 19, close to 20% across all entities.
And is that typical, Ron, in your experience with other maybe service providers, once you sub out the installation of the networking cables and things like that?
So there's 2 levels of program. There's I'm going to really go in the weeds here, DBE and ACDBE.
Yeah.
So Shane is in the food and beverage operation end, so he's an ACDBE, airport concessionaire. You're looking more at the infrastructure, which might be more the DBE program.
Yes, it's a DBE program.
And it's certainly one you can look at. I can't give you a whole lot of feedback on that, but I'm a recovering civil engineer, and I used to manage design and construction for my company before I came into this role. So there are opportunities there. It's the same. The program is the US DOT wrote it for the FAA administers it, and then they delegate it to each of the 50 state departments of transportation. So that means there's one regulation with 50 interpretations. But as you go into the certification process, and Shane can tell you a lot about that, but they get into the weeds with you, they go through your tax returns and all those good things. One other thing I want to mention too, so Shane came into this program as a joint venture partner of another prime, and then he became a joint venture partner with HMS Host. There's two other ways to do it on the concession side. You asked about carts and kiosks. That's more of a direct lease or sublease location. That's more like what you see at the mall. There's your space, go build it, go staff it and operate it. Another way is as a goods and services provider, but it's to the concession, not building out the airport, but to the concession. So if I'm opening up a Burger King and you're selling hamburger buns, there might be a way to work that kind of way. That's a little tougher road to hoe because it's hard to be a supplier and be limited to $1.3 million of net worth. You're up against some really big boys.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Something like currency exchange, those sorts of things, is that part of this program
That is part of
too,
this
or are those
program.
things
That's part of
okay.
this program, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't do as
Parking.
well, but it is
Parking as well,
Parking,
okay.
yes.
So it's a really broad, we're talking about
It
a
is
much
broad.
broader category than you typically think about.
I want to say something, and I've heard you mention a couple of times about the kiosks. So part of what I do is look at opportunities other outside of what we're currently doing for small businesses. And I noted there is an issue with money. So I am in the process of working with our legal team on the documents for an incubator program. And the way this would work is the airport would put up the money for kiosks. A small business would come in and sell whatever it is they're selling in that kiosk. They would have to bid on it like everyone else, but they put up no money. The airport puts up the money. And then what would happen, we'd give them like a 2-year lease. It takes about a good year and a half to see, or a year to see, how well they're going to perform. They would pay us a small stipend, but at the end of that time, as Shane said, in this business, networking is key. So in the meantime, we're connecting them with Ron. And so if they have a situation where you need a partner, here's this young lady or this gentleman who's been working with us. These are the numbers. They've done very well. They're good to partner with. And so we can kind of pass them on. There are a couple of other states that are doing that right now, and they call it the incubator program, and it really has been successful. And so that's what I'm looking at doing for our airport, because one of the biggest problems is the revenue. But we're not talking about taking a space. We're talking about taking a cart. And there's actually, I spoke with a woman when we were at ARN, another conference back in March, and she's doing this. She just got an award in Miami, and she sells empanadas. And she has that cart that she rolls through. And now she's looking at working with people like you guys to partner with. But it really helped her because she didn't have that money up front. And not all airports are going to allow that, to do that, but programs like what I run, that is what we look at, because it's great to be able to partner with folks, but if you don't have the money to put in, it's a problem.
Well, I also, and I'm going to come right to you next, but you mentioned networking, Shane mentioned networking, Ron mentioned networking and relationships. And when you read about this business, they talk about that again and again and again. It's easy to say, but who do you need to network with? Because you're not talking about your average, just
So
expand
you would
your
network,
circle.
so I am probably the newest in this group to this organization or this industry. I've been working in this industry for about 3 years now. But I said the same thing. Well, how do you get in? How do you get in this business? Who do you network? You go to the conferences and you connect yourself. If you go to, we have 2 major conferences, right? Or AMAC.
What are they?
Airport Minority Advisory Council. And, I guess ACI and ARN, right? Yeah.
And ARN.
Yeah, and ARN. But AMAC is the Airport Minority Advisory Council. And that is where you meet people, you connect with people. My first year there, people thought that I'd been there for years because I knew everybody. I made it a point to meet Ron and Ron's boss. And I'm this person, I like to start at the top and work my way down. And I like to know everyone, And so they've been advocates for me and helping me in San Diego.
And that's a once-a-year conference?
That's a once-a-year conference coming up in Seattle in August.
They
In
do have
August.
regional conferences
They do have
too.
regional conferences,
Okay.
yes.
It's a goofy website, amac-org.com.
Yeah.
It's goofy, but you go on there and they'll show you what's coming up, and there may be a regional coming up somewhere near where you live.
Okay.
And they're the only trade association that focuses solely on getting minorities into the airport
yeah.
channel.
In all capacities. So
In all capacities.
infrastructure, food and beverage, if it's touching an airport, their sole mission in life is to promote minority business in that particular space.
Yes.
We like that. Okay. Please, what's your question?
This wasn't meant for short people, huh?
Bend it down.
You must be
I
this tall to
understand.
ride.
I understand.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
My name is Luann Barry. I'm from Spice Lab Media. And so it's, if I can just say quickly, it's funny how, I hope everybody, God works, because my girlfriend and I actually just came up with an idea, and I didn't even know this session was going on. So I'm thankful that we are able to seize the moment and be here. So my question is, one, how long does it take, how long is the process to take to fully execute from start to finish? Because I'm kind of looking at you guys as the airport Shark Tank, because that's what it sounds like, right? And then are there grants available specifically to this? And I'm from New York, so we say closed mouths don't get fed. So is there a way that, since you all are right here, that we will be able to connect with you more specifically to get further information in helping us further our options?
I'll take a swing first, if I may. So you talk about from start to finish. So like I said, we'll go one step past the conversation of meeting the individuals that are actually operating or have a need in the airport. The certification can take, it can take 90 days, or depending on your city, which I can speak for Georgia, or longer. It can take longer. From that standpoint, let's say you get your certification, you find an entity, a company that has a need. You decide the path you're going to choose, because like I said, it's the joint venture path or the sublease path. Are you going to try to get into an RFP that's out there, or is there existing business? There's a lot of different factors that could actually.
It's a vending machine idea.
Okay, so at that standpoint, it's once you get in, and then just about what does it take to operationalize your business? Are you hiring folks? Do you have to insure people? Because then that was just the other piece I wanted to share with you all, is we talked a lot about the capital, and you got to have the money to pay to buy in. You got to have money because this is not something where you're just going to make an investment and sit back home and get your quarterly distributions.
Doesn't work like that.
That's not the game.
Well, and it's a 365-day-a-year reality.
Operation,
Right?
yeah.
Airports
Right.
are always open.
Right.
They don't close on Christmas. They
Right.
don't close on Thanksgiving. So
Right.
you have to have staff there. You have to be
I have a
there
lot of
every
folks
day.
that just see me and they just see this pot of gold on the other side of the runway. And the reality is, you've got payroll. I have employees in California. California, not very cheap. New York, New York, not very cheap. So I want to put that pin there. And then there is reporting that I'm accountable to the airport for providing that shows my meaningful involvement in this business. Meeting minutes. I'm physically out there. Lost insurance, pay P&Ls and that type of thing. So I just want to put that in there, because that all is part of just being considered and staying in this business once you actually get your foot in the door. But to answer your question, it grants, I think one place that's very, very underutilized, and I just learned this from one of the AMAC conferences that I went to in DC last year, is the Small Business Administration. There is money out there that does not get touched or utilized. Depending on the level of funding you're looking for in order to get yourself in the business, I think you got to go. The SBA is a good resource. I think more banks are getting better. I just think you got to have the relationship. I would encourage you, regardless of where you live, is talk to the folks at Citizens Trust, because we made them believers in what this airport can do, what this business, this industry can do. I can't recall what your other questions were, so if you want to just repeat those, I'm kind of rambling on here.
Connect with you all so that you can get more information.
Yes.
I wanted to jump in on that. Don't focus overly on connecting with us
Yes.
What's your nearest airport?
Charlotte.
In Charlotte?
right
Okay,
here.
so every airport that gets federal funds
Yes.
should have a Regina Brown at the airport.
Should.
Every airport has a governing body.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Charlotte runs Charlotte
Mm-hmm.
Airport. Get friendly with your city councilmen or
Yes.
councilwomen. Get friendly with anyone who's on any kind of committee that has anything to do with the airport. Spend those connections, because when you have those connections, I'm jumping on a plane in DC, flying down here. I don't have that connection. You have it. That's your strength to me. You bring me something I need, that's a joint venture. That's something
Yes.
I can work with.
Well, into my head was making those assumptions because I've been fortunate that being an ambassador for this summit, that I've been able to make the necessary connections to pull the pieces of the puzzle together. So it's just a matter of when I say you, may not be you specifically, but how do we, not necessarily myself or anybody,
I think-
present something to your organization or things like that.
I think if I were you living in Charlotte, the first person I would contact is I would go to their website,
Yes.
look for their small business department, and call their small business manager, and have he or she navigate you through the process of the certification, even connecting you, with joint venture partners or partners.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We want to get to these 3 questions. Yes, what's your question?
Hi, I'm Melanie Ray with Guided Business Plan, and I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm ACEB certified.
Okay, good for you.
My question is that I met with the U of the LAX, and they said that they had to remain neutral because I have a unique book that encourages women who are traveling for their employer to write a business plan for their own business during the flight. And I'm trying to get in touch with Hudson, and I was referred to the couple of right people, but they haven't returned my calls after 6 attempts of calls and emails. So the question is, how do you penetrate that to get to that person who's the decision maker who could buy products for the retail stores?
Do you have a business card?
Yes.
Will you see me after?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything else
And
to add?
I'm on a panel in Portland, Oregon on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yeah.
And my counterpart at Hudson is the moderator of the
Yes.
panel.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
I'd
where
be
I
happy to
that's where-
deliver your
I
card.
wasn't going to put her out there. That's where I was going with that.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think you're good.
I was not going to do that, Ron.
Timing's everything. Okay, yes, your question.
Timing is everything. Yes, it is.
Good afternoon. My name is Tory Sudan. I'm owner and designer of Tory Sudan Collection, which is a women's shoe line. And I currently have a store in Northern Virginia, and I'm looking to also have stores in airports. So I was wondering, would the advice be the same for someone that's interested in a retail space for a product in the airport as opposed to food and beverage? And should I also get the certification? I'm currently a women-owned business. I currently have the WeBank certification, women-owned business certification, and should I pursue the one that you mentioned as well?
So for what you want to, we have a small retailer we acquired recently called Stellar Partners. They're out of Tampa, Florida. And we used to have a big retail division, and we spun that off years ago. And we're just slowly getting in the process of rebuilding that. It'll be a long time before we get to Hudson size again, but we're working on it. But if you're in Virginia, you're near DCA or Dulles, again, that's run by an airport authority that runs both those airports, Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority. So you'll want to go and find out who the best person to talk to there. It might be, I think it's Richard Gordon, probably
Yes,
would
it
be
is
the best person.
What's the last
Richard
name?
Gordon.
And his information is on their website.
And you got to get on the map. And so you've got a product. I mean, you've got your certifications. You've got a business. You know what you're doing. You're focused.
That's what they're
kind of
looking for,
rare.
yeah.
I get most time people come up to me. They're missing. They don't have all that. So you're really in a good space. I'd be happy to get your information down to our retail subsidiary. The lady who's their developer used to work for me, so she has to listen to me. I'd be happy to get it to you. Now, they're small. Will they have a need for a specialty retail store selling women's shoes? You're in a very niche market, so you got to be in the right airport.
But those relationships, if she doesn't have a space for that, maybe she knows someone who does.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Lauren Miller. My question is for Regina. My background, I currently run my father's consulting firm. We actually
I'm
conducted...
sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, my name is Lauren Miller, and my question is for you. And so my question is a little bit different. As I currently run my father's consulting firm, we actually conducted the very first disparity study in the country. And so he's also a founder member of AMAC, Dave Miller. And so my question for you is, we have been conducting disparity studies for, I don't know, almost 40 years now. And so utilization, availability, and the levels are still not as good as we would like them to be. And so in your position, how do you feel about the improvement? Is there room for improvement?
There's lots of room for improvement. Lots of room for improvement. And that's why I brought up, you know, we have to step back at the airport, and I fight this battle every day. We have this conversation. We have to step back at the airport, look at our people, and look at what it means to our economic, the industry. What is it that we need to do to help you? It can't just be so political. It is. It's very political. But once we step back and look at programs that can help our people, our small businesses. How can we get you in a space where you need to be? How can we change those numbers? And that is what programs like what we have offer. You know, we look at, we have statistical data, and we break down every issue that comes through, and we categorize it. And money is the problem. So, okay, we need money. Okay, let's implement a bonding program. So we implemented a bonding program where we can, you know, we can write have a bank write a letter of credit for someone. People can utilize that. So there's all kind of ways that we can do, but there is an issue. We do recognize it, at least I do at my airport. But here again, not all airports have small business programs. So they focus on, let's make sure we're doing what the FAA says we have to do. We have to make sure we're utilizing small businesses for these or joint venture partnerships, or you know, we have a goal with the FAA. So let's make sure on these construction projects we're using small businesses, you know, to do this work. They don't have people that are in the background looking at all, and I have a whole team of people that do this for me. They look at all of these things in ways, and so what we're doing too is we're trying to throw these training programs in other airports. We're trying to identify airports that are not doing what we're doing. Because what I've been told is in this industry, we're doing it the best. And that's what I've been told.
Well, so you mentioned the goals, right? And I was going to ask, what are the numbers like? None of you have mentioned, but in terms of, you know,
The goals?
minority penetration in this arena,
So
do you have a sense of the percentages, and what are your goals?
Well, yes, every airport, you decide your own goal. You can't, you know, we have a consultant that kind of looks at what we have done in the past, what we're projected to do in the future based off upcoming projects, and they say, okay, they do the calculations, and they say, okay, this is where your goal should be. We've met our goal. Our goal was 8.1, I think, and I think we got 8.84. So that's our construction goal. Our ACDB goal last year we did not meet, but it was not that we did not meet it because there was things that we couldn't really control. That's what I'll say. We couldn't control this. But our goal.
What was that goal?
The goal was at the time 23%, which is very high.
What'd you get to? Can you say?
18.
And was that an improvement over the past?
Yes,
though?
it is. Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
an improvement. And actually, we had the goals every 3 years. We can look at the goals, or have someone look at the goals and try to figure out where we should be. And we should really be at 17, but we did 18. So.
And we just measured our 2017 numbers where in our U.S. business we're at 21.5% nationally.
That's good to know. That's going to help my goal.
It's a good number.
We have a question.
Hi, my name is LaMonica, and I own 2 hair salons here in Charlotte. And so I was wondering, every time I travel in the airport, and I have a long layover, I always would say, dang, I wish there was like a salon that could just offer quick services, be it a pedicure or a manicure or a quick blowout, because I got this 5-hour layover. So is the process the exact same? I know you have to be certified and all that great stuff. Is it the same as far as the investment to go into the airport for a service business like a hair salon?
So then the area you're in falls more under the retail side. So here at Charlotte Douglas, Host does the food, and there's another company, Parodies, does the retail. And they have like Gateway is here. We used to have the retail contract back here. In the good old days, we used to have both sides of the business. Things were wonderful. Bonuses were large. Now we're fighting. We're scratching our way through. You might, in this instance, because both our contract and Parity's contracts, we're kind of in the middle of them. It's hard to come in, but what you don't want to do is you got to have a long-range view. You don't want to say, hey, there's an RFP coming out next week. I think I'm going to go get certified. You should be finding out a couple years in advance what's going to be going on at that airport, so you're ready when that thing hits the street. You've built all your relationships, you've talked to people, you've talked to potential finance folks, you've figured out if the business, what the margins are, but you got everything figured out. So you're ready to go, and you're not coming in there and just going, what happened? How did I not get this deal? But if you're ready to go, if you start looking a couple years in advance, so you go and you find out when those contracts are going to end, and you say, okay, I'm targeting, 2020, 2023, whatever that year is, and you start targeting like that. And if that airport doesn't work for you, maybe Raleigh-Durham's your answer. But look around, see where things are coming up, and then evaluate how your business might perform in that market.
And one place you can find that information is go to their board meetings. They're always open. If you go to their board meetings, they talk about this stuff. And then going to their board, I have a person that I'm working with right now that's been coming to our board meetings for the last year, who calls me up randomly, wants to do something very similar to what you're referring to, a lounge, barbershop, men come in, barbershop, shoe shine, relaxing, conduct business meetings. And so they came to me because I pitch it to new ideas to our leaders. And they pitched it to me, and I said, I like that idea. I'm always, and I even took it a step further. I said, we should do like a cigar lounge, a lot of men like cigars. And so I pitched it to our CEO at the time, and she thought part of it was a good idea. She wasn't really thrilled about the cigars because we are in San Diego and, can't smoke anywhere. But so she has been coming, and her husband have been coming to our board member meetings for the last year. She pitched it to me, so she used me as her mouthpiece. And she's aware that that's something that might happen. We have some new things happening at the airport. And so she's in a position, like Ron was saying, she put herself in a position that now, if it does, she's gonna jump all in, and she'll probably be very successful because she's done her homework and she's made those connections.
We have to wrap up. Thank you all for your questions. It sounds to me as if everybody in this room who's serious about this needs to get to this convention in August.
Yes.
The Airport Minority Advisory Council. They go on the website and get information. Look for regional opportunities to connect with these people and build relationships in your area. This sounds like a pretty long-range proposition, realistically, not something you're going to jump out today and say, boom, I need to be in this 6 months from now. So if you can give people just, quickly one word of advice, starting where they are today, wherever they are, what the key thing they should make it their business to do within the next 6 months to really kickstart that process in a formidable way.
I would say, do your homework and get certified.
Shane?
Have a plan.
Yep.
Know where you want to go
Do your
and
homework.
what you want to invest and pursue. Have a plan.
Juan?
Local.
Be intelligent. Be the smartest person in the room. If you know more about what's going on in that airport than I do, that's a tremendous value to a company like me.
Thank you all so much. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you all so much for coming. Their contact information is there, and we're ready for next session.